we can hear you. What time
Okay,
did you say?
sorry. Probably like 1 hour later, around like 8. I know that's getting a little bit later, but then if my husband was home, like he could put the kids to bed, or I could hire,
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I was feeling this. I was feeling the same sort of struggle as well. But thank you so much for joining us and being here. And thanks, Misa, for leading this. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see it?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So, Katie, if I was going to say, if we all wanted to introduce ourselves in the chat, but I think we all know each other. But I'll just briefly share a little bit about myself, if we could go down a little bit. And sorry that I couldn't figure out how to get the presentation mode on here. Up to the pictures. Katie.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, Christy. So I am a mom of 2 girls, 13 and 11. I am a former first grade teacher. Here's a picture of me in my old classroom many years ago. And my youngest was diagnosed with failure to thrive when she was 1. She fell off the growth chart. She wasn't eating solid foods because she had a constant runny nose. She couldn't breathe and she couldn't taste anything, so she didn't feel like eating any solid foods. Come to find out, she had a lot of food sensitivities. So once I overhauled my diet, because I was nursing at the time, her runny nose went away. But because she missed that flavor window from 6 months to 18 months, which is the ideal time to expose your little ones to as many different textures and smells and colors and tastes as you can. That's when they're the most open to trying new foods. I know many of us will say, my baby ate everything, and then he or she turned 2, and now they don't want anything. And that's because of the flavor window. So we missed the flavor window. Those were 2 big causes of, and the food sensitivities were 2 big root causes of picky eating. I talk a lot about trying to figure out what the root causes of picky eating is, and there's usually several. And once you figure out those root causes, you can streamline specific strategies for your specific needs based on root causes. So that inspired me to get my health coach certification and then my culinary nutrition certification. And I just spent the next several years experimenting, adding to my toolbox. I learned that my daughter loved food art. She loved playing with vegetables. She loved creating. Here's a picture of her making faces. And I noticed that when we played and she didn't have that pressure to eat, she often ate on her own accord. So that was a big learning point for me. When we take the pressure off and we just give them play and have fun and build curiosity, they can often just start eating on their own. So I started teaching kids cooking classes with the idea of showing kids that vegetables can taste good. We made spinach pancakes, we made sweet potato muffins, we made rainbow veggie sushi. It was a lot of fun, and kids were trying all these different foods that their parents were very surprised that they were eating because they were involved in the process. And then lastly, I was fortunate. Hello, Emily. Welcome. I was fortunate to get a New Hampshire Chronicle feature. And that night I had a handful of families reach out to me about family nutrition coaching. So that's how I got started with coaching families around picky eating. And that was about 2.5 years ago. So you're in the right place if you dread dinner time, you want your kids to eat healthier without power struggles, your kids refuse new foods or are picky eaters, you feel like you're cooking separate meals for everyone, you want simple systems to plan, prep, and serve meals, and you wish meal times were calmer and more enjoyable for the whole family. And if you want to share in the chat why you're here, what's your biggest challenge, if it's one of those, or if it's something else, I'd love to hear what's the biggest challenge for you. when it comes to dinner and getting your kids to try something new. Why dinner time feels so hard? I need simple systems. Okay. Why dinner time feels so hard? We have all got busy schedules, decision to fatigue, deciding what to make, picky eating. We often feel the pressure to make sure that they eat something because we're worried about their growth and development, and we want them to eat their vegetables. And that often can lead to meltdowns. So I'd love to know what resonates with you, or if there's something else that makes dinner hard that I didn't think of, but I'd love to know new ideas for how to cook healthy options. Okay, great. If you could go down, Christy. Okay, so I can't help with busy schedules, but I can help with a decision fatigue and not knowing what to make for dinner. That question, like, what's for dinner every single night? That gets exhausting. And it takes up a lot of like headspace. So I like to think of a dinner framework. So dinner consists of protein. Dinner decision fatigue is huge. Yes. A protein, which is like a chicken, turkey, beef, salmon, tofu, eggs. A healthy fat. Sometimes the healthy fat is in the protein, like in the beef or something. But sometimes you're cooking your vegetable in the healthy fat, like extra virgin olive oil is great for salads. Avocado oil is great for stir fries or roasting veggies. And you got coconut oil, avocados, nuts, nut butter, grass-fed dairy. Those are all healthy fat is a really important part of your meal that you don't want to forget. It's really important for brain development. It's important to help absorb the nutrients, the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. If we don't have fat in our food, then we're not going to be able to absorb those nutrients. And it also helps for satiety. And the protein is really important to help keep us full. So those are the two components. And then non-starchy vegetable is another component. Examples: broccoli, cauliflower, peppers, cucumbers, spinach, lettuce. And then the last component is your starch: rice, potatoes, pasta. I like a jovial brown rice pasta. It's just one ingredient. Peas, corn, squash, that's the starch. That's what gives us energy. The non-starchy vegetable is the fiber that feeds our bacteria and our gut microbiome, which is really important for our gut health, which is really important for our overall health. So anyways, those are the components. And if you have those in your head, you could, sit down with your family and just write down a list of all the proteins your family likes and all the non-starchy vegetables your family likes and all the starch. And then you just pick. We'll do chicken, we'll do broccoli, and we'll do rice. And then we'll do turkey, and then we'll do cucumbers, and then we'll do pasta. It's like nothing fancy, but it's just like 3 categories, and then you've got your healthy fat on top of that just because you're cooking with it. And if your kids are, depending on their age, you can get them involved. You can have them write it out, or you can have them choose, or you can get them involved in the process. So it can be as simple as that, your dinner framework. And then if you scroll down, another option, if you want to get a little more involved, is I have a list of my family favorites that I just have on a piece of paper, and I put it on the fridge. And I have this I've built over several years. But like, I know that my family likes all of these recipes. So if when I'm prepping, planning for my meals and I don't feel like cooking, I'm just like, we'll do this, this, and this. Or I don't feel like thinking, I should say, this, and this. Or I'll have my girls and my husband like, okay, everybody pick one meal because I don't want to think about it. So there's many different options for planning. It's just what feels good for you, whether it's just basic protein, veggie, starch, or you want to get a little more involved and have a list of your favorite recipes. You could do that. And then lastly, there's one more idea, is just create a flexible template. I personally have tried this and it doesn't work for me, but I know it does work for some families, and some kids like that predictability where every Monday's burger night Every Tuesday is taco night, salad bar, pasta, pizza, leftovers, soup, whatever it is. Or you could have like a flex night. Get creative, whatever works for you. For me, it's having the list and kind of not having to think about it and having my kids get involved in the process or having my husband pick. Or just simply like, okay, we're going to do chicken, cauliflower, and rice, keeping it simple.
I have a question.
Yes, and please ask questions. Yes.
So when I was growing up, I definitely, like, my parents always did that where it would be like the meat, the vegetable, the starch. And so that's always been like a foundational thought for me. But so I've definitely misconstrued this because, like, I'm like, oh, we don't need the starch. That's just like added calories, right? Like, do my kids really need the rice, or is it just because they like the taste of it? But what I think I heard you say was actually there is value to actually having the starch as opposed to it just being like, we know people like pasta and rice a little bit better
Yeah.
than their broccoli sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
it's a complex carb. It gives us energy. So yes, I would say it's an important part of the meal. And it's more like you've got your protein, you've got your non-starchy vegetables. In the ideal world, that's half of your plate. It's more the non-starch, and then a quarter of your plate is the complex carb, the starch. So ideally, it's a smaller amount of the rice and the pasta and more of the vegetable, but I know that can be a harder sell. So you just start with the components. But yes, it is an important part. It gives us energy.
Is there a thing called a starchy vegetable?
Yes, potatoes, sweet
Uh,
potatoes, white potatoes, squash, peas, corn.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that peas were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So oftentimes for our starch, we either do sweet potatoes. I cut them up into like French fries, drizzle avocado oil and salt, and bake them in the oven. Or we'll just do a white baked potato, or we'll do some rice. And rice by itself, you're right, is not very nutrient dense. But instead of water, I cook it with bone broth. And bone broth has a ton of protein. It's got collagen. It's got a lot of nutrients in it. And then I have over time added frozen cauliflower rice. So now I do half frozen cauliflower, half white rice, and I cook it with bone broth. So it is much more nutrient dense than just plain rice.
That's a great tip, to cook it
Yeah.
in bone broth. And I assume that that's in the grocery store. I've never cooked with that before. Easily accessible, right?
Yes, it's in the store. It's got 1 cup, I think, is 10 grams of protein. So it's very nutrient dense, and it's got collagen, which is really great for hair, skin, nails, gut. Good for it all.
For us
Yeah.
moms, we want the collagen.
Yes.
Cool.
And for the healthy fats, Misa, you said
Yes.
you just like cook the meat with them, or do you like, could it be anywhere? You could like drizzle them on the vegetables. You could just like, as long as you're getting them at some
Yeah,
point during the
yeah.
meal.
Yeah, it's how I usually make the vegetables taste good, with the oil and the salt. Like you're drizzling olive oil with the broccoli and a little salt, or avocado oil if you're roasting, doing roasted veggies.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, if you could scroll down. Okay, so you know what you're gonna make, and now you gotta figure out how to make it and find time to make it. So if your week is busy and you feel like you don't have time to cook dinner during the week, you have to find some time on the weekend. So meal prep light. And if you've got a family with a significant other, have them get involved. Grill several pounds of chicken, for example. Grill 4 pounds of chicken for the week. The first night is grilled chicken. The second night you shred the chicken and you put it in tacos. And then you take the leftover shredded chicken and you put it in a rice bowl. And then you take the leftover shredded chicken and you put it in soup. So you cooked 4 pounds of chicken. It's still gonna, I mean, even if you cooked 1 pound, it takes the same amount of time. So you might as well cook a lot. And then you make it last 4 nights. So there's that. Like I said, shredding the meat. There's, chicken salad. There's tacos. There's burrito bowls. Take advantage. And then you could add different flavors. your kids don't like eating the same thing all the time, the same thing for 4 nights, put taco seasoning in it one night and put it in a soup so you can change the profile. I just added hard-boiled eggs. I like to prep some just for my breakfast, even in the morning if I'm running out the door, grabbing some hard-boiled eggs, cooking up a pot of rice so you have that, and pre-chopping any veggies. If your kids are old enough, give them a knife, whether it's a plastic knife for the soft vegetables or a sharper knife. You can get them involved in the kitchen, and you don't have to do all of these, but think about some things that you can get done that will make your life easier during the week. And I'm always so thankful when I do this. And yes, I usually have my husband like cook a bunch of meat on the grill. I'll usually put some chicken in a crock pot and shred that. So I'm just taking an hour or so out of my weekend because I know that I might not have the time during the week. And if you have the time during the week, then you can just chip away at it during the week.
Do you go by the 4 days? So like if you make chicken on a Sunday, or is it 3 days? How many days will you typically eat it until that you're like, no, this isn't good anymore?
I don't know. I usually do probably 4 days.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I think is.
But I'm not an expert in food going bad.
Well, because I mean,
would
if you're
say 4 days.
okay, so like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah. And you could always freeze it too. If
Mhm.
you make too much, freeze it. Or, we eat lunch at home. So taking that and having it for lunch too is helpful. Yeah. Okay. I also like to have just like in my head or on a piece of paper, 5 emergency dinner ideas that take like 10 minutes, and like it's 5 o'clock. I have no idea what to make. Kids are starving. They're running around like crazy. So these are my personal go-tos, make your own emergency go-to dinner ideas, but I like to have English muffins on hand, fry up some eggs. So you got your protein. I like to add microgreens or lettuce or whatever kind of green, avocado. You got your fat, and then you could put some fruit on the side or some veggie sticks. So you've got all 4 of your components. Single ingredient pre-made burgers. Those are awesome to have on hand. Broccoli, avocado toast. Again, these take, 10 minutes. Pizza, I like to have the frozen pizza crusts. I like my personal favorite. I'm gluten-free, so I like Capello's pizza crust. Then you just put on some toppings, serve with some veggie sticks or some salad. Chicken sausage, that takes 10 minutes. Serve with some salad, some baked potatoes or whatever. And then tacos, I like the siete tortillas. Ground meat, buy the pre-shredded slaw, and then guacamole. So again, those dinners have all of the components, the protein, the non-starchy vegetable, the starch, the fat, and it's pretty easy to get done. And those are all meals that are reliable, that I know my kids will eat.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I know there's a Trader Joe's right in Portsmouth, right? And I'm starting to go there a little bit more and trying to like ascertain like what are the easy, quick meals that are also healthy. I think I might have a fault. Maybe it's true, but it might be false where I think a lot of what's at Trader Joe's is pretty good and healthy. But I'm just curious if you have any go-tos maybe that fall in this bucket as well, like emergency, they're in the freezer. And if you're running late, like any of those pre-made things that you can get. And if not, that's okay. Just curious.
Yeah. I do not. Sorry. I personally, and this is controversial, so you have to make your own decisions around this, but I personally avoid seed oils. You probably hear that a lot. There's 2 different sides, anti, pro, whatever. I personally avoid seed oils. A lot of those pre-packaged foods do have seed oils, so it's hard to find a good quality one. These single serve ingredient, frozen burgers are good. I don't know if they have them at Trader Joe's. They might. And then the chicken sausage,
Mhm.
I'm not sure what they have at Trader Joe's for those, but they do have chicken sausage. So I wouldn't say I found like a pre-made boxed thing, but
Yeah.
I haven't looked very hard either, I guess.
Where do you find single ingredient burgers?
Well, uh, personally, I shop at Whole Foods, but I know that Hannaford, like I've bought turkey burgers at Hannaford before. You just have to look. They do sell them in other stores.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so you've done your meal planning, you've done a little meal prep, you got a balanced dinner on the table, and now what? Because you want your kids to eat it. That's like the biggest thing. Okay, so I'm going to share a few ideas, a few thoughts. So Ellen Setter, who is a family therapist, an author, and a registered dietitian, she has this thought, a division of responsibility. And it's the parents' job to decide what we serve, when we serve it, whether it's 6 or 7 o'clock, and where we serve it, at the dinner table, in front of the TV, wherever it might be. That's our job to decide. It's the kids' job to decide if they're going to eat and how much, which is so hard because we want our kids to eat what we serve them. But when we start saying, take a bite, take a no thank you bite, 2 bites, and then you can have dessert, try a little of everything, then you can go play. That's us interfering with their job. And that's creating pressure. It's taking away from their autonomy. It's teaching them to ignore their hunger and fullness cues, which is really important. And it's creating this power struggle, which is creating anxiety around the dinner table, which is just creating this meltdown, which is creating this just unpleasant dinner environment. So it's important for us to remember our job is just to serve nutritious meals most of the time. And it's our kids' job to decide if they're going to eat it and how much. I know, we don't know how they're feeling. We don't know if they're hungry or not. Maybe they're getting sick and then we don't know. We don't know how they're feeling. So if you could scroll down. The problem with pressure, like I said, it might work in the short term. I know it works for me in the short term, like 2 bites, then you can go play. 1 bite, then you can have your dessert. But then it doesn't work. It's not the long-term goal. And I found that I kept having to renegotiate. It was like 2 bites, then you can go play. And then it was like 2 bites, then you can go play and you can have dessert. 2 bites, and then you can go play, have dessert, and stay up past your bedtime. It's like, it only works for so long, and then you're having to keep increasing the ante. And then you're like, oh my gosh, they're looking at the broccoli and they're getting a whole box of cookies. What just happened? and in the ideal world, if you could go down to the next slide, we're thinking of the long-term goal. Yes, that might work in the short term, but in the long-term goal, we want our kids to eat broccoli because they want to, because they like it, not because we're making them eat it to get their dessert or whatever. So I think that's important to remember, long-term versus short-term goals.
And Emily had a question in
Yes.
the chat that actually I have the same exact issue with. So
Okay. Can you read it for me?
Yep. How do you handle a kid asking for something else to eat from the fridge?
Okay. We're going to get to that. I have a few scenarios that I'll talk about. In general, I would say no, and I would say this is the food that I made. We're making 1 meal for the whole family, and this is what we have for dinner tonight. But I'll talk about if that doesn't work out. Okay, so we have the division of responsibility, and then my mantra is keeping the adventure high and the pressure low. So now that we're keeping the pressure low, we're not bribing our kids to take the bites or whatever, which I did. I think that's a very common, the no thank you bite. We're bringing curiosity and fun and adventure to the table with the Taste-O-Meter is one tool of many. The Taste-O-Meter is a tool that you can find on my website. It's a free download, and you can print it out in color and you put it on your fridge. And instead of saying, take a bite of broccoli, you say, tell me what you rate the broccoli, or where does it land on the Taste-O-Meter? Where does the broccoli land on the Taste-O-Meter? So you're not asking them to take a bite, you're asking them to play a game. Okay. And that simple shift in language makes a huge difference. If they don't want to play, that's okay. You model it. You can model rating the broccoli. So what do you rate the broccoli? For the younger kids, it's a thumbs up, I love it. Thumbs to the side, it's okay, I'll eat it, I don't love it. And thumbs down, I don't like it yet. Putting the word yet teaches them a growth mindset. I don't like it today. Maybe I'll like it cooked a different way. There's so many different ways to eat broccoli. So to say that we don't like broccoli is a very fixed mindset. I mean, you can dip broccoli with ranch. You can roast it. You can steam it. You can drizzle it with cheese. You can put it on top of pizza. You can put it in soup. You can shred it into little florets. I mean, there's lots of different ways. You can, if your kids like bacon, you roast it in bacon. I mean, so giving them hope that, yes, they don't like it today, maybe they'll like it a different day. And for the older kids, it's 0 to 10. And I've had so many parents say that this has been a game-changing tool. Kids will ask to try new foods just to use the Taste-O-Meter. I gave a workshop just on Monday, last Monday. A mom who had a 3-year-old son who she claimed had never had any vegetables and was, in her words, surviving on air. DM'd me on Instagram that night after she printed out the Taste-O-Meter, and she told me my son had broccoli and a bite of salmon for the first time. No fighting, no arguing. It was fun. They all did it together. And she's like, was so excited, and I was so happy. But this is just one way to bring fun and curiosity to the table. And again, if it doesn't work right away, just keep modeling, doing it as a whole family. It's a game. And here's a picture of, so I work with the parents, I don't work with the kids. So this is a parent's kids. They didn't like peppers, and she wanted them to encourage eating peppers. So let's play the blindfold game. So they put a blindfold on, she chopped up all the peppers, and modeled, like, she did it first. She's like, oh, I wonder if I could tell the difference from a red pepper to a yellow pepper to orange pepper. And just like, she tried it herself with her blindfold on to see if she could figure out the difference. Just like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Am I doing it right? Like, making a big deal. And then her kids are like, I want to try. So they all put the blindfold on, and they were all trying, figuring out which color was which. And before, they wanted nothing to do with trying these peppers. But they ended up trying them. They ended up realizing that they liked the peppers. Sometimes it's the biggest hurdle is actually getting them to try. And when we remove that pressure and we bring in the fun and the curiosity, it can make a big difference. So those are just 2 ways to kind of release the pressure and bring in some fun. Okay, so here are some scenarios. Okay, so kids won't, I just came up with 3 scenarios that I hear often from moms. My kid won't sit at the table long enough to actually eat dinner. Okay, so when I talk about picky eating, I talk about getting to the root causes of picky eating, which will help us streamline the strategies. We always have to ask why. We always have to get curious. So why is my child not sitting at the table? Are they tired? Do they sit for an extended period of time at other parts of the day, or is it just dinner? Or do they just have trouble sitting in general? Are there foods at the table that they actually like that help them feel safe? Is everyone sitting at the table, or are we like up making dinner and kind of serving our kids while our kids or one of our kids is at the table? What's the environment like around the around the dinner table? Are there toys everywhere? Is there food out that they want to eat instead? Can they see something that they'd rather eat? Do they feel safe or anxious? Is there that pressure to feel obligated to take a bite? And are they actually hungry? Okay, so let's say this child's 5, dinner is at 6 o'clock. This child is this child's tired. This child was just having a snack, so now he's got no appetite. He's come to the table and he's hungry and he's just like done. And he has no, like, he just had a snack, so he doesn't have an appetite. So I know this is not feasible for some people, but I just want to throw this out there. If it works for you and your schedule and you have a younger child who tends to get tired, have dinner early. Even if it's like at 4 o'clock, if you can swing it. Instead of having a snack when they come home from school, have dinner food at 4 o'clock. And I know you're not hungry for dinner, but sit down with them, eat a little bit of their salad or vegetables or whatever. So you're modeling, they're seeing you, you're sitting there, you're keeping them company. And then that's at 4 o'clock. 6 o'clock comes around. You can all sit down to eat together. They've already had their dinner, so if they don't have an appetite or they're too tired to eat, no big deal. They already had dinner. And then you get to eat dinner. That's just one option. Of course, I know that's not feasible for many. One other thing is I said, snacking is a big problem before dinner. It's important that your kids come to the table hungry, and ideally they have like an hour and a half at least window of time where they're not eating. The kitchen is closed. So for younger kids, I encourage kids to make a sign like open, close. The kitchen, if dinner's at 6 o'clock, the kitchen closes at 4:30. Put a sign up, have them make it. And again, this comes down to making sure that they have a snack with protein in it. If they just have goldfish for a snack, they're going to be starving because goldfish doesn't have protein in it. It spikes their blood sugar, gives them energy quickly. Then they crash an hour later. They're going to be starving because there's no protein, there's no fiber in those goldfish. So it comes down to a healthy snack around with protein, so they can get through an hour and a half without eating. So they come to the table hungry with an appetite. So they're more willing to sit at the table. That would be that's one scenario, a few suggestions, something to think about. Questions around that? Scenario 2, kids refuse new foods or they want what's in the fridge, like somebody asked. Okay, so are they hungry? Is there pressure? What's the dinner environment like? Are we modeling trying new foods? Are we all sitting down together? And are we instilling that curiosity? So let's say there's, we have to think about, are we having that boundary? Is the kitchen closed an hour and a half before dinner? Do they have time to develop an appetite? Are we bringing curiosity to the table? Now's a good time to get out the taste-o-meter. Or I remember when my girls were younger, I used to just buy the orange sweet potatoes. And then one day I brought the purple and the white sweet potatoes, but that was like something new that they had never seen before. So again, I did something like, shut my eyes and tried to figure out if I could figure out which was which. Something simple like that. What was I saying? Oh, so thinking about how to bring fun and curiosity to the table. Any questions on that? Okay, so if you go to the next one. So again, this is hungry right after dinner. They don't eat any dinner. They don't like what you made. Mom, I'm hungry. Did they eat enough protein? So if they just had pasta for dinner, that's just a carb. There is no protein. So they are going to be hungry an hour after dinner because they're getting the energy and then their blood sugar is going to crash. about an hour later, and they're going to say they're hungry because they are hungry because they didn't have any protein. Are they saving room for a preferred snack? If they're used to getting cereal after dinner, then they're just going to hold out. I'm going to get my cereal after dinner. I have no incentive to eat any of this. And do they come to the table with an appetite? Are we having those boundaries around snack time? And are they tired? What time are we serving dinner? Are they distracted? Those are all just questions that I like to ask. So let's say they're holding out for cereal after. So instead, you could say, okay, we've got 2 snack options after dinner if you're hungry. And the snack options should have no sugar, and they should have a protein, and they should be something that's easy that you don't have to make because you're tired and you're not going to have to make a whole nother dinner. So, and depending on the age, they could make it themselves if they're old enough. And then they have to clean up after themselves. Kind of disincentivize them to actually, if they know they have to like make it and then clean up, they're going to think a little bit harder about eating their dinner, possibly. But some ideas, a cheese stick that has 7 grams of protein. A chopped meat stick has 10 grams of protein, or like a half a chopped meat stick has 4 grams of protein. Plain Greek yogurt with some blueberries, cottage cheese. It has to be something that you know they'll eat, that they like, but they're not going to hold out on. That doesn't have sugar, that has some protein, that's going to help hold them over so they don't wake up in the middle of the night hungry. And again, you come up with those 2 snack options. You can have this or you can have this. And they know the 2 options. And that's that.
And
Thoughts
so that's
about
like,
that?
it's always just 2. It's not like the 2 very, so this is a big issue in my house is that after they have dinner, they're expecting a snack or a treat, unfortunately. And we don't give it every night. You know, sometimes we're like, no, but they always ask. And sometimes, you know, sometimes we'll allow it depending on the situation, but I do feel like it creates a pattern and an expectation. And it sounds like one of the options that I try to do that I feel like is healthy, but maybe it's not the right move is like a banana or a piece of fruit. But obviously there is sugar in that. Yeah, I'm curious.
So it's I don't think of after dinner snack as bad or a treat. You know, it's we do an after dinner snack or dessert every night. It's part of our routine, and it's not because they haven't eaten their dinner. It's just like we eat dinner at 6 and they go to bed at 9, so they're hungry.
Yeah.
So it's part of our routine to eat an after dinner snack or treat. So I don't think it's necessarily bad. Having that consistency so they expect it. And a banana, I would say a banana does have sugar, natural sugar. I would serve it with peanut butter. So it has that protein in it to help keep them satiated. So banana and peanut butter is a great idea, or blueberries and plain yogurt. I wouldn't do the regular yogurt because that's loaded with sugar. What was your other?
No, we do treats sometimes. I mean,
treats.
and like obviously sometimes you want ice cream or
Yeah.
something like that at night. Do you have any guardrails around that, or how do you think about that?
I don't connect it to whether or not they eat their dinner. Like, you don't get dessert because you eat your dinner. Even if they didn't eat their dinner, they still get dessert if that's what we decide on. We have some kind of dessert every night, but it's like maybe a handful of chocolate chips with a spoon of peanut butter, or I don't know. It's not, sometimes we have ice cream, but it's not regularly. I mean, decide what feels good and comfortable for you. And it's in the whole scheme of things. So this is another, you know, the American Heart Association recommends no more than 25 grams of added sugar per day for kids 2 to 18. So a 2-year-old is going to digest that protein very differently than an 18-year-old. So just keep that in mind, that the recommendation is really quite broad, 25 grams. So ideally a younger child is eating a lot less than 25 grams of added sugar. But I brought that up because if you have dessert every night, and they're not having a ton of added sugar during the day, no big deal. But if they're already eating a ton of sugar during the day, I mean, typically, I think your average child is eating 70, 80 grams of added sugar per day. And then they have dessert on top of that. It can get a little crazy. So it's all looking at your whole day. Dessert is not bad. It's just like how much sugar is your child eating throughout the day. And that adds up quickly when we're not being intentional about it, because there's sugar in bread, there's sugar in jam, there's sugar in cereal, there's sugar in mayonnaise and dressing and pasta sauce and bars and all the things. So just being intentional about that is what I would say to the dessert.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So I would ask people in their hopes and dreams, like in the chat, like, what do you envision your dinner table looking like? In the ideal world, what do you want your kids to be eating? How do you want dinner to be feeling? Just give thought to that for a minute. And if you want to share in the chat, again, just a year from now, what do you picture dinner to feel like? Warm feeling of being together and getting sustenance. Yes. I think when you're in the thick of picky eating, it can feel very overwhelming and like hopeless. But I like to share that there is so much hope that you can get through picky eating. You know, I would say my daughter was a pretty picky eater, and thankfully now 11 and 13, they're both thriving, adventurous eaters. And I just see working with my clients just with small, simple, sustainable changes can make a big impact. And parents always ask me, like, do I have to overhaul my whole pantry all at once? I'm like, no, one small change, less stress, open to new foods. Yes. It's one simple change, and it's amazing how these little changes can add up and build momentum and just, I'm sorry, I pressed something and now I don't know. So I loved all those. I wanted just to share with you. So I do one-on-one nutrition coaching, and I also do group coaching. And I started group coaching because chatting with other moms, everybody's saying the same thing. My kids are living off of goldfish. My child hasn't touched a vegetable in weeks. Every dinner is a meltdown. I'm trying all the things. Nothing's working. I feel like I'm the only one. I just got to get through this. It feels a little hopeless. I'm worried about whether my kids are getting enough nutrients to grow and develop. You know, I'm cooking multiple meals for each member in my family because everybody wants something different. Can anybody relate to any of those things? Yes. So that's one of the reasons I created the group coaching, because I wanted everybody to know that you're not alone. This is a very common thing. Picky eating is very common. My husband is also a picky eater. Yes. Yeah. And some parents, people will say, you know, I'm just going to wait. My kid will grow out of it. And to that, I say, yes, they might grow out of it and they might not. There are plenty of adults who are still picky, and there are kids that do grow out of picky eating. But to me, the question is, how long are you willing to wait to find out whether or not they're going to grow out of it? A month, years? And like during that waiting time, how is that affecting you as a parent, like emotionally? For me, it was really stressful. I didn't sleep very well. I didn't eat very well. I didn't take care of myself because I was always worrying about my daughter. And for her, like, her immune system was down. She wasn't getting the nutrients she needed. She wasn't growing and developing. She was failure to thrive. She had fallen off the growth chart. There were so many things that were impacting her. And so for me, like, maybe she would have grown out of it. I don't think she would have had we not figured out that she had all these food sensitivities. And I don't know, it's food for thought. Some people grow out of picky eating on their own, some people don't. And really, it's like, how long are we willing to wait? So what it includes, it's 6 45-minute group coaching calls every other week, online resources, guides. So I have guides that you can purchase separately, but I made them because, you know, there's a snack guide, for example, with simple swaps. So if your kids like goldfish, here's a simple swap with better for you ingredients. If your kids like a certain kind of bar, here's a simple swap with lower sugar, better for you ingredients. So over time, you're slowly swapping out your pantry for better for you products with lower sugar or no sugar options. So that's a nice resource to have. And then the community, private community Facebook group where we can all share our wins, share our challenges, brainstorm together, support each other, and then any additional tools for your toolbox. And I just want to share a few testimonials of highlighting small changes can add up. Libby's husband was the cook in the house, and he used to love to cook until they had kids, and he had to cook so many different meals for each person in the family, and he just got tired of it. It wasn't fun and enjoyable anymore. And then after working together, Libby said Mike is cooking a lot more now and is getting more joy from it than he has in years. We are so thankful that our family is back on track, eating healthy meals together instead of making one meal for the kids and another one for us to eat later. And then Lauren had 2 kids, 2 and 5. She was not taking the time to feed herself because she was tired, which made her irritable and grumpy. And I totally felt this, like not having the energy to cook. And so it's so much easier to say yes to fast food drive-through than to say no and have to listen to the meltdown. So she got in this cycle of saying yes every single night, going to a drive-through, and she noticed their behavior is just, meltdown. They're hard to put to bed at night. And then she said at the end, my kids are eating better. They are not as cranky. My son is eating his lunch at school. No more sugar crashes and meltdowns. I am eating better too, with smoothies for breakfast, protein smoothies, and my favorite recipes from Misa. So with her, I started with her taking care of herself first, because if we're not taking care of ourselves as a mom, we don't have energy to take care of our kids. So what we did was we started with getting her a protein smoothie for breakfast. Then she was able to say no and hold her boundaries, and have energy to cook meals. And that made a huge difference. And then if you could scroll down, Carly, this is the last one. Working with Misa has been transformative and unbelievably supportive for our family. We have a child with a lot of sensory challenges and anxiety around food that has had us at a loss around how to move forward, what foods to prepare, and most importantly, how to make cooking and mealtime less anxious and more about connection. We are all desiring. Working with Misa provided instant creative solutions, inspirational ideas, and the compassionate approach we needed. Most importantly, Misa helped us find a way to make mealtimes fun and relaxed. So talking about sensory challenges and anxiety around the table, we were able to reduce the pressure and bring more fun and curiosity. This boy was 5, and it just made a big difference for their family, finding connection, which is really what it's all about. So our next group coaching starts in January 22nd. I highlighted all 6 dates. It's every other week. Usually the investment is $555. I decided to do the angel numbers. And this week through Saturday, it's 20% off. So you can get it for $444. And you could use the code together at checkout. And Christy can put that in the links, and I can reshare it in an email later, along with the Taste-O-Meter if you're interested. Again, I do the group coaching, which is great for community. I also do the one-on-one coaching. It just depends what you're looking for, if you found this valuable, and if it depends where you are in your own journey and what you're looking for. And if you scroll down to the last slide, I'd love to, my Instagram is at Misa's Clean Kitchen, where I share lots of tips around picky eating. And also I download the Taste-O-Meter if you'd like. I'd love to know what a takeaway is, or what's one small change that you can starting tomorrow. Just again, just focusing on one thing, because it can feel overwhelming to like do it all. But one thing that, or one aha moment or something that you took away from this workshop, I'd love to hear. And any questions that you'd have, I'm happy to answer. Make a list. Yes, make a list of all the foods that your kids like, or meals that your kids like. Put it on the fridge. It takes away from that decision fatigue. It's helpful. Make sure protein is paired for the snack. Yes, that's really big. I call snacks mini meals. So a mini meal, protein, fiber, healthy fats, and a crunchy food. Like, yes, serve the chips, but also make sure you're doing some protein, some fiber, like fruit and vegetable. It'll help keep them satiated longer, and it'll help them go longer without eating, which will make it so much easier for you. Ideally, they're having a snack at breakfast and a snack at lunch, and then maybe a snack after dinner. They're having 3 snacks. And sometimes it can just feel like constant grazing if they're just eating chips and goldfish and bars and things that don't keep them very satiated. Need to get kids to bed. Yes. Well, it's 8 o'clock.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Misa. This is great.
Yeah.
We'll stop the recording.